Republic forces in retreat. While rescuing General Aayla Secura from certain defeat, Anakin Skywalker has been seriously injured. After a narrow escape, our heroes crash-landed on the remote world of Meridon. Stranded and with no way to contact the Republic, the Jedi receive medical aid from the peaceful Lurmen colonists. But even on this tiny planet, the war threatens to follow the Jedi.
Greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tigar. Welcome to the 40th Lurmen Defending episode of Mandovision. Nargai Tom. Thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. Remember, the best way to reach out to us is via social media at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. You can use our email address, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, and sharing the show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert, and you can share it with friends, enemies, loved ones, people you're in blood feuds with, people who owe you tons of money, people who are indebted to the Hutts. Share it with them as well. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to give us those sweet 5-star reviews. They help independent small podcasts or small independent podcasts like us stand out, not get lost in the shuffle, because there is a deluge of content out there, and we think we're doing a pretty darn good job over here on Mandovision. So those 5-star reviews help us make a little bit of headway on that tricky algorithm. So thank you in advance for taking the time to do those. Remember, we are part of the 3BZ network of podcasts. You can head on over to 3bzine.com. You'll find links to all the shows on the network. That includes Beer Night in San Diego, the Tomcast Popcast, our pop culture-centric podcast, which is featuring a lot on Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, and the Snyderverse suddenly. Hey now, check it out over there if you get a chance. Also, if you're on 3bzine.com, we have a store envy page. You can buy all kinds of sweet merchandise to help support the shows, and we truly appreciate that. All right, listen, we're back. We're doing another episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. We're here for Season 1, Episode 14. This is Defenders of the Peace. Here's the plot. While the Jedi combat a new Separatist weapon, the pacifist Lurmen must decide whether they will surrender or fight with Anakin, Ahsoka, and Aayla Secura. Pretty basic stuff right there. Remember, this episode is directed by Stuart Lee, written by Bill Canterbury, Henry Gilroy, and Scott Murphy. Our main cast for the show, a lot of familiar faces, a lot of the same cast from last time. We have Matt Lanter as Anakin Skywalker, Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka Tano. George Takei joins the fun today. I did not mean for that to rhyme, but George Takei joins the cast. He plays Loch Durd, the Nemoidian Trade Federation representative who is testing this new Separatist weapon here against the Lurmen. Alec Medlock plays Wagto. George Coe as Tewat Ka, the village elder from last episode. Jennifer Hale, the one, the only, the female Commander Shepard, returns as Aayla Secura. D. Bradley Baker as Captain Rex and Commander Bly. Matthew Wood as the battle droids. Corey Burton as Count Dooku. Tom Kane once again narrates the episode. And David Accord is the Aqualish technician, who's popped up in previous episodes in small parts here and there. One of those characters that kind of just pops back up, and you were like, is that the same Aqualish that we saw from previous episodes? Sure enough, it is. It is. All right, we're going to dive into this episode real quick. But before we do that, before we dive into the episode review proper, we have to do something very, very important. One of the key components of an episode of Mandovision. You know what time it is. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
What menace have you brought to our village now, Jedi?
Father, you can't blame them.
He's right. The Separatists don't even know we're here.
And they can't know. We've got to hide.
Your presence here endangers us. You must leave before your enemies find you.
But you'll need our help. You can't fight them alone.
We will not fight them at all. We would rather die than to kill others.
You're going to surrender? But how can you—
Ahsoka, stop. If the Lurmen want to remain neutral, we won't force them into war.
Say to it that they leave. I must see what our new visitors want.
All right, so our Jedi fortune cookie for this episode is, when surrounded by war, one must eventually choose a side. And, as we discussed a little bit on last week's show, this is an episode that kind of puts the focus on trying to be neutral in the Star Wars galaxy, in trying to avoid conflict and the challenges that are associated with that, and the sort of perceptions of the people who want to remain out of the fight instead of taking up arms and joining them. There's some interesting discussions in this episode about that, and the Lurmen and their Switzerland-esque approach to the Clone Wars and trying to stay out of it. But now that it's here on their doorstep, they have to, something has to be done, despite the elders' desire for them to stay out of it. It is a battle that cannot be avoided, apparently. And Wag too, the young healer of the village, the son of the elder, sees the danger and forces his father to rethink their approach to things, because it's their lives on the line. Let's kind of get into it. They're still marooned. The Jedi and the clones are still marooned with the Lurmen. They're in the village. They've sort of have become part of it. You see the clones helping out the Lurmen in some daily life activities. Some really nice stuff as they try to figure out how they're going to get out of this planet. That's when Separatist forces arrive, led by Lockdurd, as we mentioned, played by George Takei. And I think Takei does a really nice job, sort of conveying the supposed superiority of the Neimoidians and the Trade Federation in general. Treating these Lurmen like vermin in a sense. He says that he basically says it doesn't matter that they're on this planet. The planet was supposed to be empty, despite this Lurmen colony that's there. But they're in his way. They are an impediment to him testing his weapon, and he's going to test it regardless of the Lurmen being there. The Jedi go into hiding in order to protect the Lurmen. Durd's presence here, there's a bit of a sense of imperialism, and the off-worlder who comes to a planet and just assumes he can do whatever he wants, no matter who's there already, and so you get a little bit of that, a little bit of a statement about imperialism and colonialism in that sense as well. It's they don't dive into it hardcore, but it's there. It's something to think about as you watch the episode. As the Jedi go into hiding to make sure the Separatists don't know that this small group of clones and Jedi are there. There is an interesting discussion that takes place, and the perceptions of the clones and Ahsoka of the Lurmen and their desire to remain neutral and their desire, their intention, their belief in pacifism. It's like I said, I really like this episode in that sense. When you kind of get into some of these moral issues. And again, this is a show. It's aimed for a younger audience, but this is a sort of a sign that they're not afraid to kind of get into some of the complexities of war, and it's I think they handle it pretty darn well. It's you only get so much story in a 22-ish minute episode of the Clone Wars, but while I think the resolution towards the end is a little rushed and a little forced, it's not to a degree that it wasn't an egregious decision for what happens in the finale. But I want to go ahead and play this scene where Ahsoka and the clones are sort of discussing Lurmen and their beliefs. So here we go. Let's play this.
I can't figure those villagers not wanting to fight. No pride, I guess.
I call it no courage.
Sometimes it takes courage to stick to one's beliefs, young Padawan. As any Jedi well knows.
We need to find a ship. And I think the only one around here belongs to the Separatists.
We know they have a landing ship. They might have a shuttle.
Sir, you talking about stealing from one of the clankers? Count me in.
We need to find them first.
I think we just did.
And that's when they notice a giant probe droid who detects them, and they have to go race off to pursue the probe droid to make sure it doesn't make the report to Dodd or to Durd that they are there. I like the chase because it shows Ayla Secura kind of heading off on her own, and then she heads off on her own and then offs the probe droid's head. So it was a pretty neat little chase. I like the way she sort of veered off. Everyone else was in direct pursuit, but Ayla sort of interpreted and anticipated the path of the probe droid and was able to get ahead of it and prevent it from revealing their location to the Separatists. All right, so I want to apologize right now. I'm hoping that the microphone is not picking this up, but I seem to have a helicopter just hovering above the street on which I live. I don't know why. I thought perhaps it was a police helicopter and they were in pursuit of some criminal, but it is apparently just some kind of spotter for the potentially the power company or something like that. There's a bunch of people out working on the street. It's very distracting to me. I hope you find people aren't too distracted by that background noise, but apparently they're not going away. I waited about 10 minutes or so, and listen, the show must go on, so we will go on. I hope the helicopter noise isn't too distracting. When I'm playing audio clips from the show, I should be able to control it a little bit better, but when I'm talking, it may pick up. So hopefully my talking over it is not, or is keeping it away from the microphone as much as possible. So I'm very, very sorry about that, but unfortunately this is one of those things I cannot seem to control that well. The frickin' street always making something new, sirens going on behind me when the cops are going. It's a whole thing. But I appreciate everyone's patience with it. So thank you. So it's at this point in the episode. Let's get back to the episode. Let's talk about the important thing. The reason why we're here. Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Come on, let's get into it. Let's hear from Lock Durd about this weapon that he plans to test on the planet here, and the danger that it poses to not only the clones and the Jedi, but to the Lurmen themselves. So we'll let Lock Durd do the talking here. Let's fire it up.
Is the defoliator capsule ready? Tarquin! Today is a grand day for the Separatist cause. We test a new weapon of my own design, which is capable of catastrophic destruction. A weapon which will destroy organic matter, but leave machines unharmed. But first, we need 2 volunteers. The volunteers are you and you. Go to that bridge.
So that was pretty funny the way the droid army just sort of backed up and left 2 ahead of them. That was how they got the volunteers. Pretty funny stuff. I also enjoyed the way the droids were cheering, so I kind of let that part of this go. So they're about to test the weapon here, and we're gonna see the catastrophic results of it, as Durd said. This I feel like this weapon is definitely against the Geneva Convention. But I guess when you're involved in a galactic civil war, no weapon is off the table as far as the atrocities that it can commit. But this seems like, wow, that's a weapon that can just wipe out all organic life, and that's not good. Not good. Oh boy, our heroes may be in trouble, and it's an interesting scene when they fire the weapon, when they test the weapon, how it destroys all the plant life, the trees. The clones who are going to investigate the weapon have to race back. There's a great sequence with Anakin and Ahsoka and Ayla rescuing the clones just in the nick of time from getting hit by the expanding bubble that is the weapon. Really neat stuff as they're swinging off that giant tree that they're perched on, and I think you all probably noticed how much fun that is. Oh, and Dooku makes an appearance too, as at this point, the little hologram of Dooku, because he wants to know how successful this weapon's going to be. And yeah, it's Rex and Bly who have to race back before they get eliminated. But Ayla Secura making the big save on Bly. And now, this is when Dur decides it's time to test it against the Lurmen. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and play the sequence. We have Dooku's hologram, Dur's reporting in, and laying out the plans, and then we'll hear the Jedi's reaction and Anakin's stance on helping these people who want to remain neutral, and sort of Ahsoka's feelings about it. So, good stuff here. Let's listen in.
As you can see, the landscape has been destroyed, and the droids are undamaged.
Impressive. But now we need to know how effective this weapon will be against living creatures.
Of course. I specifically chose this planet because it is inhabited. The colonists will make excellent test subjects.
Proceed then. I eagerly await the results.
Prepare to move out!
Where are they off to now?
They must be going back to the Lurmen village. There's nothing else in that direction.
Those villagers won't stand a chance.
First, we'll take out the droid's communication station. Then after we get a shuttle, we'll go back and help the Lurmen.
But Tewok Ka said he doesn't need our help.
There's a difference between pulling innocents into a war and leaving them to extinction.
Yeah, so there you go. Anakin making it known they're going to help the Lurmen. On a little side note here, something of interest, watching these episodes and kind of reacquainting myself with the Lurmen. As I was reading, I've been reading those High Republic books that are out now. And in the second book I read, Into the Dark, the one by Claudia Gray, there is a Lurmen on the Jedi Council in that book. And I was like, hey, now, there's a Lurmen in this book. Actually, I take it back. She's not on the council, but there is a Lurmen Jedi Master in the book, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Claudia Gray makes great use of some of the lesser used aliens in the Star Wars saga. So that's all. I always enjoy that. I always appreciate that. So on a side note, check that book out. All right, let's get back into the show. Here we go. All right, so at this point in the episode, the Jedi and the clones are running a stealth mission at the base. They want to get that ship, but they also have to get the. They also have to save help the Lurmen with the tanks rolling in, the battle that's coming. Now the Lurmen are also aware because WAG 2 had sent one of his allies to watch the Jedi and make sure they stayed safe. So he also saw this weapon be fired. So he sends a message back to WAG 2. And we get into a philosophical debate between the young WAG 2 and his desire to protect his people with I don't want to say with violence, but with action, with picking up arms, the taking up of arms, and it leads to again another little bit of a debate with his father. And I wanted to go ahead and play that scene too because I like these sort of things, these sort of moral arguments and where the line is for an individual person and how you have to find that on your own. And it's very interesting stuff. It's Star Wars: The Clone Wars. It's a show aimed for a slightly younger audience, but it brings up important issues and it brings up important things to think about. And even as an adult, these are things that are completely valid and still should be thought about. A lot of people quick to anger, the taking up of arms. I mean, we're seeing that in real life now. The inciting of violence through the irresponsible words of others. And this is an episode, again, this came out in 2009, and it has a high level of relevance to things going on in our world, which is a very interesting thing and something, I'll be perfectly honest, I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Some of the things that happen on the news these days, and the way people are just so quick to arm themselves and to take up the cause of, or to take up violence as a way to express themselves or to show their level of their beliefs. And I don't know. again, we don't want to go down that road of reality in the Clone Wars, but something to pay attention to. There is a level of connection to things going on in our modern times, and that's interesting to me, and a little frightening at the same time. But let's go ahead and play this scene between Wag-2 and his father.
The Separatists are on the march. They're returning to our village.
They did not attack us before. There's no reason to think they will this time.
Father, they would not be coming back here unless they intended to do us harm. This is war.
But not our war. We've done nothing to provoke them, and we will not. That is their way.
So we will just lay down and be slaughtered. Father, even if we don't fight the Separatists, we must defend ourselves.
Mounting a defense is still engaging in battle. If we sacrifice our beliefs, we're no better than they are. Our philosophy has helped us to survive for generations, and we will not change our morals now or ever.
And there it is. Sorry, it took me a minute. I had to turn the mic back on. That was not professional. Apologies. So at this point, the Jedi, after their successful stealth mission at the Separatist base, they've taken a shuttle. They're taking some shield generators, and they're going to return to the Lurmen village. Now, as the Separatists roll into the Lurmen village, after the Jedis and Bly and Rex have kind of helped fortify with those giant acorns that we saw in the first episode, and how the Lurmen are using those in their village to build their homes and things like that. Durd laughs those off and is not impressed with the defenses that the Lurmen have. Actually, we're gonna go back a second, because I did like the scene where the Jedi return to the Lurmen village, and the conversation that takes place about how they're here to help and how they're here to defend. And again, you get more of that moral struggle, that moral tug of war between the Jedi's desire to defend these people who won't defend themselves, and the Lurmen's reluctance to participate in their own protection. Again, I find it all interesting, very, very fascinating. So let's play the conversation and a little bit more of that debate.
Everyone, please listen. The Separatists will be here in moments.
What are you doing here? I told you not to return.
I'm afraid the Separatists don't care whether you're in the war or not. We need to get you to safety before they arrive.
We will not abandon our homes.
But they've got a new weapon. It'll burn this place to a crisp. Is this what all of you really want?
If it is our destiny to be destroyed in your war, so be it.
It's at this point that the Republic forces decide to take up the defense, no matter what Wag-2's father says in regards to participating in the violence that will come their way. So the battle breaks out, as we said, and the Jedi, using the shield generators, are able to repel the first wave of attacks, and this forces the Separatists to send the battle droids in through the shields for more direct combat. So you have Rex and Bly with Ahsoka, Ayla, and Anakin, AAA, and hey, the Lurmen had to call AAA for some backup, right? No, they didn't do that. That's a joke, but it's not a great one. But I do like calling them AAA. They sound like a great wrestling team. And so we get more of that combat against pretty overwhelming forces against them. But the Jedi and the two clones, Rex and Bly, will defend the Lurmen to their death if they have to, because they know it means, if they don't, it means the end of the Lurmen, who are not taking up arms to defend themselves. It's at this point when Wag-2 sees what's happening, and he can no longer stand on the sidelines as a pacifist, as these people are potentially risking their risking their lives and potentially going to die in their defense. And so Wag-2 inspires the younger members of the clan, of the colony, to take up arms in their own defense instead of waiting for the Jedi to save them or die trying. Let's play a little bit of that as Wag-2 gets into it with his father once again.
Wag-2, what are you doing?
We're going to help.
I forbid this.
What more would you have them do before we are allowed to defend ourselves? But we have to do this.
And there go the Lurmen, and it definitely helps to in the defense of the village. They are needed support for AAA and Rex and Bly. And we'll go ahead and we're going to play Anakin's big attack on the defoliator, on Durd himself. And I'm going to play it because I enjoy George Takei so much. And it's sad that this is his only appearance in a Star Wars, in the Clone Wars. But he does a great job, and I love his cry for help here coming up. So you'll hear a lot of action, a lot of blasters and lightsabers, but that's always fun. So let's just roll with it.
Help! I'll be defoliated!
They're trying to run away here. Not getting very far as Anakin's picked him up.
There goes my promotion.
The weapon has been disabled.
Copy that, General.
And there we go. It's at this point that the show begins to wrap up as with Durd out of play. The clones and Ahsoka and Ayla are able to do their jobs and defend the village with the help of those Lurmen. All right, so let's play the last bit of dialogue that wraps up the episode, and then we're gonna close out this show too. So let's hear how the episode ends. The resolution as AAA and Bly and Rex are preparing to take their stolen Separatist shuttle and leave the planet and the Lurmen. Here we go.
Thank you, Wag-2.
Thank you. Our village would certainly have been destroyed without your protection. Father, I was just offering the Jedi our thanks.
Perhaps we do owe you thanks. But I still wonder, at what cost?
And there we go. That kind of wraps us up. And again, it's sort of an ambiguous ending in that sense, as the Elder says. At what cost will this take? How will it affect their colony in the long run? As now these younger members of the colony have taken up arms and they have engaged in the war. Will there be retribution? Will the Separatists seek to get a little payback? It's war is complicated. It's and should be avoided at all costs. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. I don't want to sound like I'm endorsing the Clone Wars as the responsible thing to do. I like the fact that it's got some moral complexity to it, and there's a lot to consider. And we get, again, we're only in season 1, and there's so much more to get into as far as some of the rightness and the wrongness of this war as it plays out. Yoda will begin to question things, and the Jedi will begin to question things, and they should, and that's logical and reasonable thing to do, because I think the thing that rewatch Attack of the Clones and see how the Jedi are forced into this situation, and it's a path they can't back off from. And I think Yoda begins to realize that fairly quickly, that they are stuck on this path. It's not the path they should be on, but they have to see it through. And we'll get to more of that as the show goes on. Again, we have 6 seasons, and those big heavy themes really start to weigh on the characters and as the show goes on. We're still in a very much of an introductory phase of the show. Season 1, again, it bounces back and forth. You get little tastes here and there of some complexity, some moral questions, some strong themes of war, anti-war. Again, another reason why the show's so good. The character stuff is fantastic, but we're not seeing a ton of that at the moment. So we're sort of getting like these bigger questions, and they're being explored in a decent manner, I should say. Again, it's a 22 minute show. You can't do a deep dive on these things, but it's fairly thought provoking. It's something that should make you ask these questions too. Sometimes I know I am quick to anger, and you don't want to be the guy who incites violence. That's never a good look for anybody, and the world's complicated a complicated place, and so many people are quick to violence as their answer to whatever obstacle seems to be in their way or provoking them. It's again it's very, again, these are things to think about. And process, and we should keep it in the context of Star Wars, but sometimes, there is some bleed over into the real world, and that's kind of a sign of a strong show, where you get a little bit of an allegory or an analogy or a metaphor, depending on which way the show goes. And again, another reason why the show's so good. I'm giving this episode a 7.5, just because I feel like it's sort of like at the tip of the iceberg as far as getting into some of these complicated issues. It doesn't get quite enough room to breathe, to be explored. But it's enough information that it should make the audience think about these things. Like, how did you feel about the Lurmen stance and when they finally took up arms? Did you agree, disagree? Were they right to do that? It's the show doesn't give you definitive answers, and I think that's a good thing, because, again, you need to think about these things as an individual for yourself, and what's your path, what's your beliefs as far as that goes, as far as violence goes, as far as defense of yourself goes, and that's something we all have to answer for ourselves, and there's a little bit the path that the Lurmen are on is it's a strong moral path. It's a bit of like the moral high ground, but where is the line? Is there a line? And again, we all have to answer that for ourselves. So, all right, enough of that. I'm getting a little too highbrow, and you all know by now that I'm not the smartest person in the world to do some of these more thought-provoking, explorations of morality and things of that nature. But hey, we're gonna get to more of that as the show goes on, and hey, it's gonna be fun. Don't worry. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed making it. Again, my name is Tom, Narguy Tom. You can follow us on social media at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. You can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Please share the show with all your friends, family, loved ones, all the Mandalorians in your covert, enemies even, your dog's friends, the people you meet at the dog park. They're nice. I bet they'd like this podcast too. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, 5-star reviews go a long, long way to helping the show get some attention. They help small independent shows like us stand out, not get lost in the shuffle. And we're on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Audible, Amazon Music, so many, many more. And that's a great thing. So we close out the show today. Remember, we're going to be back dropping more episodes every Monday, every Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're racing towards the Bad Batch when we'll be doing, I think every Friday will be an episode of the Bad Batch getting reviewed as those come out. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're really excited about that. There will be subsequent episodes of Bantha Tracks as Star Wars news breaks, and we want to talk about it here. We just dropped one of those last week for some publishing news that was coming out. Exciting publishing stuff. And again, if you're enjoying the show and you're I don't want to say you're liking me, but you're at least entertained by the show that I am creating, you can please head over to the Tomcast Podcast and check out what we're doing there. We're covering a lot of Marvel stuff at the moment. The Falcon and Winter Soldier show is going on right now. We're going to be doing, by the time you hear this, you will, it should be the same day as our Snyder Cut of Justice League gets reviewed. A lot of good stuff going on over there. We got some fun things planned for the rest of the year as well. So if you like just a more of a broader general pop culture show, the Tomcast Podcast is the one for you. A bit of a warning though, it is a little bit more. I work a little blue on that one. I tend to drop the swear words and the potty mouth stuff. So just a heads up on that one. Thank you all so much for listening. We only end this show one way, and this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.